Hello and welcome to the Level Up Agent Network. My name is Zach Shipley. I am the host of the Level Up Agent Network, founder of the Level Up Agent Network, formerly known as KW Geeks. And this week, this month, this day, I am joined by Nicole Duffey. Nicole is from the Fairfax, Virginia area. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. Little known fact about Zach Shipley: lived in Front Row, Virginia, until I was 8 years old. My dad worked for Department of Navy in DC, wanted to live outside of the city, far outside the city. So yeah. I'm a little familiar with Virginia, although my memory is limited to up through 1989.
Well, I think some things have probably changed.
Probably, yeah.
So
that Kmart? I don't know.
We have Kmart and Front Royal, probably. I've made it out to Front Royal a couple of times over the years.
So yeah, we'll start at the beginning. How long have you been in real estate?
I have been full-time, fully licensed agent since 2014.
Okay, so a good long while there, 12 years. Yeah. All right. And prior to real estate, because that's hardly anybody's first job, what did you do?
So before that, I had a stint in non-for-profit administration, and I got there because I have a master's degree in theater, and most theater companies are non-for-profit organizations. So when I transitioned out of theater, also the DC metro area has a lot of nonprofits in it because we're near the seat of government. And so, yeah, so I was a theater kid, I was a non-for-profit girly, and then just sort of wound up in real estate. I think some people get there strategically. I kind of found myself here. I actually got a job at the front desk at my KW office because I was between nonprofit gigs. It's not a super stable career field. Got laid off again. And have this great resume that if you are a theater person, you know what that means. And if you're not a theater person, it just reads like gobbledygook. And the MCA at my market center just so happened to have been a stage manager as like her hobby when she was in college. And so when she got my resume, she was like, oh, this is a competent human being. Let me interview them. Wound up getting the Duffey job. About 6 months later, I got my license because I really, just being in a KW market center, I was able to start to understand what owning a real estate business was and how KW worked. Fell in love, and the rest is history.
That's awesome. And it's actually kind of funny. An agent I first talked to maybe a year ago, who I kind of recruited to our business. He found me on TikTok. Is also like runs a theater company, and like that's like his other job is like acting and directing stage plays and small theater stuff. And his spouse just became our new Duffey. So it's like, this sounds really familiar in a weird mirror way.
I know a lot of people that started in the theater and then wound up transitioning into a real estate or real estate adjacent career, like mortgage lenders, real estate agents. And I think part of it is the predilection for ADHD and entrepreneurship. That it's doing this job is the same thing every time, but it's completely different every time. And once you kind of learn the contours of how to do it, you just slot in different information and rinse and repeat. So there's a lot of similarities with the way you produce a play.
Oh yeah, and also like I've done a lot of improv stage work, and I can say, like, when people go like, "Oh, I don't know how you do it," it's like you don't realize you're doing improv every single day in this job. Anyway, it's just like this just stretches your mind to go like, okay, what's the funniest response I can give instead of like, what's the measured calm response? And that's the struggle I have in my day-to-day. So like I think about, when someone says, when like, the world's crashing down them because the deal's falling apart, what is the silliest thing I can say at that moment? That's not that can bring calm to the situation if I do that.
Right.
So no, when you've got as far as your theater background goes, were you? It sounds like you were kind of behind the stage, or were you acting and doing lines and stuff like that there, or
all of the above?
All of the above.
All of the above, with the exception of lighting. I'm not good on ladders, and I'm scared of electricity. And and like major construction projects. And I'm afraid of heights. So any of the parts of theater that involve that was not for me. But between being my teenage theater experiences, my college theater experiences, I then worked professionally for a few years before I then got my master's degree. You name it, professional properties work, acting, directing. I've done improv. I was a box office manager for a theater in Atlanta for a few years right after college. Incredible experience. So administrative work, creative work. I like helping people come together to like make a thing happen. A lot of community building involved in all of that. Did a few seasons as a street character at the Renaissance Festival, that kind of thing. So like my nerding and my arts career kind of dovetailed well together.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So tell me about your nerding. Is it just theater, or you have other like fascinations and obsessions as well?
Well, and I'm someone who is in nerd culture. I'm surrounded on all sides. So all of my friends and loved ones, my husband, my besties. Personally, my primary hobby is LARPing. So I've been doing parlor LARPs and buffer LARPs and like marquee event LARPs. 2007, I think, was probably the first LARP I attended. And I was in a Pathfinder game, and everybody in my Pathfinder game, I just moved to DC. Everybody in the Pathfinder game like was playing in this LARP. And I was like, oh no, I'm a theater person. I get paid to act. I won't go act for fun. Because basically LARPing is just improv theater.
And for the uninitiated, LARPing is live action role playing.
Role playing.
It is playing a character in the world.
Like if anybody who's, the way I like to explain it, and I wind up explaining it a lot, to be honest. Like, if anyone's ever played Dungeons and Dragons or Pathfinder, any sort of tabletop role playing game where you sit down and the first time I ever had that explained to me was, what if you sat down around a table and wrote a fantasy novel with your friends? And I was like, ooh, that sounds like fun. I'm in. LARPing is just, instead of sitting around a table and talking about what your character does, you are standing up in the world wearing a costume and doing what your character does. And there's a lot of different styles, and there's like European styles and American styles. It's a whole thing. But at the core of it, you go to an event, put on a character persona, and walk around as that person for however long that event lasts. For me, my like home game, my core favorite game that I play is what's called the Chronicle game. So it's like a soap opera. Every time you go to an event, you're kind of picking up the story where you left off. Everybody's playing the same characters. Much like in a tabletop game, you have a chronology, and some tabletop games will last for a decade. So can some Chronicle LARPs as well. My old character I played for about 12 years before that game did a reset on the story and retired. So
I totally, I've never done like real LARPing, but I realized, like, especially when someone like yourself describes it, I was like, oh, I kind of do this at a low level without thinking about it, because like I'll dress up for Halloween, and it's like I've got a Ghostbusters costume, but it doesn't have one of the 4 Ghostbusters names on it. It has my name on it. I'm if Zach is a Ghostbuster. I have like a slightly darker colored suit. I've modified my stuff, and it's kind of like, it's like, what if Ghostbusters was a franchise business and I work for the Milwaukee branch?
Right. Yeah.
So I've got like my own like weird little story around it. And then there's like whole Ghostbusters group in Wisconsin that has a car, and these guys all have like very authentic costumes, and again with their names on it, and everybody's like, oh, I'm just doing the same thing as they are. I'm just going to reach off camera here for a second. I was at Disney last month, and so my next big character I'm going to be working on, I don't have a name for it yet. I don't have a costume, but I figured, well, I've got the most difficult to do part of it now. I've got a lightsaber.
Got a quality lightsaber.
I'll probably come up with some kind of Jedi character
Yeah. Well, and I
The
would consider
future.
that, like, just to get super
Mhm.
nerdy on you, because that's what we're here for, I would consider that a style of cosplay as
Mhm.
opposed to LARPing. And here's why. Cosplay, like, you're doing an improv, you're
Mhm.
doing a theater, you're doing an acting, you're in character, you're
Yeah.
but you are, when you're cosplaying and when you're like out running around on Halloween, you're interacting with the rest of the world. You're interacting with the real world as your character,
Ah.
right? When you sit down at a table to play D&D, you're interacting with the game world as your character.
And
And
everybody's in on it.
at a LARP, everybody who's there is buying into the idea of the game world. All of these characters are in a shared story together. Whereas if you're, running around on Halloween, you're going to run into lots of other people who do not know what the shared world you're in is. And also, much like a tabletop game, the reason it's a game is that there are mechanics. There are resolution mechanics. And whether it's
I'm I'm
yeah.
I'm learning a lot here. Yeah, because like you said, I thought it was more or less this kind of cosplay plus improv, but it's a little more than that because you've got like goals in mind and things like that. So it's not enough for me to say like, no, this is not Luke Skywalker's lightsaber. This is a High Republic model. It's a different. It's like it's not any existing character's lightsaber. It's mine. So that's I guess that's a good way of thinking
Yeah.
about it. Is that it's beyond just
And
costume and character for a party or even a convention. It's
absolutely.
like you're
Yeah.
doing
Somebody in
something.
cosplay at a big con running around interacting
Mhm.
as their character. I wouldn't, like, if we're getting technical about it, which sure, let's be
Mhm.
nerds and be pedantic about it. That's improv theater, and it's a beautiful thing. Like, I love cosplay. I do that
Mhm.
as well. At a LARP, there is a shared agreement on what the
Mhm.
setting is, where the characters are, why they're there, and you have resolution mechanics, just like in a tabletop game where you're checking dice to figure out whether or not you hit somebody or you can open that lock. At a LARP, there is some kind of a resolution mechanic for certain things, usually combat, but also some other like ways you interact with people or ways you interact with the world that provide that element of randomness and that element of, well, my character can do things I personally can't. And so we can bring that into the story. And because you have that shared rule set and that shared setting, everybody is playing pretend together in a way that like feels really real in the moment.
Mhm.
It's incredible.
And I think that's again, this is a skill that I think most people don't realize how much it probably applies to your job on a daily basis. I'm sure everyone who's listening or watching has heard the phrase "fake it till you make it," and
Mhm.
yeah, and like especially in real estate, a lot of people are like, their first listing, their first buyer, the first time they deal with something like that, they want to brush it off and be like I'm the professional, I've done this hundreds of times, and realistically, like we probably haven't done it as many times as we pretend. We maybe read about it, we know somebody did it, but like we're learning on the fly, we're faking it until we make it. But I'm role playing as a person who's done this 70 times before instead of the first time.
Well, I mean, they talk about it in like script practice class, right?
Mhm.
Role playing. And part of it too, like one of the things, one of the styles, it was not the first style I played. The first style I played was called parlor LARPing, where you're just kind of sitting around a hotel room and you're talking. Everybody's in character, but the gameplay is largely just verbal. It's just social gameplay with some like resolution mechanics put in there for sometimes when there's social conflicts. But the game that I'm the most in love with is a boffer LARP, where we legit have like foam swords that we make, and it's a lightest touch combat game. So you're not trying to hurt anybody. You're trying to just like tap them with your sword. And when you do that, they take a hit, they take a point of damage, right? And so the resolution mechanic there, instead of chucking dice, is they hit me. So if they do that enough, I have to die. I have to go down. My hit points are out.
Do you keep
And
track of that, or is there a game master who's saying like, you've been hit three
honor system,
times?
honor system. So the
Okay.
rule set that my game uses is designed to try and be very easy to remember. And so like my like super beefy character might have 6 hit points, right? And maybe 2 points of armor on top of that. So you're not having to do a lot of mental math. And also, as long as you're giving it a good faith effort, because a lot of new players, that's the thing they're freaked out about, is like, how am I going to remember all these rules and how am I going to know if I got hit? And if you give it an honest try, and like if you think you probably got hit enough times that you should fall over, fall over, right? As long as people are egregiously trying to cheat, which makes it not fun, you're fine, right? Like nobody cares. We're all there to have a good time.
I would probably fall over before I ran out of hit points and be like, "No, you're supposed to get up." It's like, yeah, but I'm tired.
Yeah,
I've been hit with one sword.
Right? Every once in a while, I'll be like, I should probably just like nobody hit me, but I should probably fall over, and vice versa. But one of the things that's interesting about it is that by engaging in that simulated combat, I, over the last decade, have a different relationship with my adrenal response. Because if you're in the woods at night, someone's chasing you, they're hitting you with a sword, like you get scared, right? Your body is designed to do that, but you get used to it because human beings are really good at getting used to stuff. And I think that's the same whenever we do script and role play in real estate training. They asked me this question that's scary to answer, but if you make your body go through that adrenal response and answer and learn how to speak through that fear, you get good at it. You get better at it. I mean, this is the core of public speaking too, is that when people are scared of speaking in public, but you just practice enough to figure out how to get over your own stage fright and make it happen.
Excellent message for anyone who is new or even somebody who's very experienced in real estate, is to practice before you've got the client in front of you. My wife is one of the brokers at our office and runs the productivity coaching, like basically new agent training program.
Yeah.
And it's I'm not calling anybody out here, but there's a good chunk of brand new agents who she'll say like, "Hey, write an offer as a practice and then present it to me." It's like she'll even give them a house. Say like, do it on this new listing or whatever. Pretend like you've got a client, write an offer. And so many of them don't do it, and then they freak out when they actually do have a client in front of them that they need to write an offer, and they're making simple mistakes. And the message is so clear. It's like, if you just like did the practice one where there was no stakes whatsoever, and you made all your mistakes with me rather than with your client, this would go so much more smoothly. And it's the same thing with like just going into a house when you've got no client. You see a vacant listing, it's like, I'll just do a tour just to practice. Do a walkthrough video with your camera. Pretend your camera is the client. You don't have to. It doesn't have to go to social. Not everything has to be your social media video. But like you do it, like
you don't have permission to be recording.
Yeah, point it towards yourself, and that way you can watch it later. It's like
yes.
I didn't realize how valuable that was until I honestly like I started doing stand-up comedy maybe 2 years ago, and recently I felt like, I'm starting to get better at this. I'm going to start recording clips, and that way I can put it on my social. And I realized that like, I don't actually want to post much of this stuff at all. Not necessarily. It's like it feels more refined in my head when I'm doing it than it does what it does coming off on video. But I realized like, by watching this again, I'm sending it to other comics, I'm sending it to other actors and stuff like that. It's like, what do you think about this? And like, some people said like, move this part of the punchline here so that it makes more sense. They're always like, watching this back has as much utility for me than it does. It's more utility for me than it does, posting it on social and maybe getting like a new follower out of it. Because realistically, somebody who follows me, that's all they're going to do. Maybe a year from now they come to a show, but for the most part they don't. Usually, when someone follows you, the content is like that they're comfortable with is the clips you post. Yeah. So I like a 15, 30-second joke is fine. A little crowd work's fine, but I record my set so I can listen to it later and go like, okay, I see where I fumbled off this, or like, I didn't realize that this linked with that, or just
oh my God, I'm talking so fast right there. Ooh.
Yes. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. It wasn't until I did my first like 10-minute set that I realized like, 10 minutes is such a long time. When I've got 4, I feel like I'm trying to do as much stuff in it as possible. And I thought 10 should be easy because now I don't have to pick and choose which jokes I'm doing, or I can do all the stuff I've written that fits in with this bit. And it's like I hit 7 minutes and realized like, oh shoot, I gotta fall back on some one-liners and dad jokes to fill out this.
Yeah, you have a lot more time to
Mhm.
fill, and you have to pay more attention to your pacing too,
Mhm.
whenever your time scale changes.
Yeah. And again, just to kind of tie it back there, like when you're acting and you're LARPing, or you're never alone. You've got a scene partner. You've got somebody. You got somebody to work with. Whereas like when I'm on stage, the only people, yes, I'm not alone. I've got the audience, but they're just the feedback. They're not like, it's not conversational, and they don't know how fast I'm supposed to be going. They don't know that I messed up this one part, and sometimes that's a gift. Oh, they don't know I messed up this one part. I can kind of go back and or tie it back in and still get this punchline, or they don't know that it's not that it's supposed to go this way. So like they have no idea that I'm going to get to some kind of punchline, and so you don't have their trust right away a lot of times.
Absolutely. No, that makes a lot of sense. Well, and going back to recording yourself too,
Mm.
I know with a lot of agent training, we're being pushed into more online stuff and video and podcasts and all of this sort of thing. And I think it's really smart to do video and have that be part of your marketing presence, like what have you, part of the way people find you. In part, like at least for me, when you hire me to work with you, you're hiring me to talk to you for however many hours of our lives and explain things to you. And I think it's really powerful to have video of you explaining things on the internet so that people can look at it and go, oh, I like the way they explain things. That makes sense to me, that their demeanor like fits, their analogies fit. And this is part of why I love working with other nerds and people who are involved in geek culture, because I've got the analogies for days. Of that draw from all of that stuff. And if I'm working with someone that I can't be like, when you're like creating a video, a avatar in a video game, you've got the sliders for like how big your ears are and stuff, and they're like, what are you talking about? And I'm like, ooh, okay, recalibrate, like how do I get new analogies in? But anyway, we're pushing all these agents to try and get online and try and do more video. And the biggest like hurdle for a lot of folks is just being observed and seeing themselves on camera and hearing their own voice. And there is so much power in, as you say, just recording yourself so that you build that muscle of being able to watch yourself on video and just learning how to be comfortable being observed. That's definitely something that my theater training and my LARPing has helped me with in my career as a real estate agent, because I am comfortable being observed. I know other human beings are going to look at me, and that does not freak me out.
Well, let's talk a little bit about your real estate career. So obviously you've been doing this for a while. I assume you're full time, or do you have like another job or
I
something
have
else?
been full time since 2014. I went
Okay.
all in with both feet.
All right. Awesome. Do you work alone? Do you have anybody you work with as like either a team or assistant, or anybody who's in tandem?
Yeah, well, I mean, results through people. I'm not on a team or anything like that. I've been a solo agent this whole time. A couple of times I've had a VA for support. Over the years, I've hired TCs a couple of times, and it just wasn't the right fit. At the moment, I've had a TC for the last like 3 months, and it's been a really good fit so far. So knock on wood, that relationship continues, because it is about having the right person. Long story. Anyway, very happy about that. But I've always been really active in my market center. I've been on our ALC for years. And so a lot of the other agents here at my office are friends, colleagues, and we step in for each other. This is one of the crazy things about LARPing. The game I play the most, we have 4 events a year. Game on is Friday night, game off is Sunday afternoon. And that entire time, the intention is to be in character. And so my character doesn't have a real estate business in Northern Virginia. My character doesn't exist in the same plane of reality that Northern Virginia does, right?
Oh, your character doesn't go to an open house?
No, not at all. Not at all. So in my perfect world, I'm off the grid. And not like in the bathroom at the event, like checking my phone just to like tell people about stuff. So I have several agents in my office that I trust to step in and work for my clients, and I compensate them for their time depending on what they had to do. And so sometimes that's not much. Sometimes that turns out to be a lot, and we cross that bridge. We take care of it. I leverage newer agents in my office who are trying to learn. I love mentoring. I love explaining things to people, right? It's part of why this is my job. So those newer agents coming in, hey, can you open a door for me? In exchange, like, I'm going to have lunch with you and tell you about things, let you pick my brain about stuff, like help you figure out the problems you're having in your business, and also compensating them for their time. So with that sort of team that, and as people come and go through the years, like, I've always managed to have enough of a core group of folks to help me out, that it's worked so far.
That's great. And yeah, the having that work-life balance and knowing how to manage it. I mean, it's like there's definitely something to say, like, oh, you can't be off the grid on Friday and Saturday. These are the times when, like, the new listings are hopping. They've got the open houses. People are off work and therefore they want to see properties. And you manage to figure out how to make that work, how to be able to do the thing you love and not let your business falter, or let one negatively impact the other in too much of a way.
Well, and I feel a high sense of duty to my clients as well, right? Like, I'm not going to go off grid if I don't trust that they'll be okay and that their deal will be okay and what have you. And in the cadence of the marketplace we've had here in Northern Virginia the last few years, I mean, the property comes to the market Thursday, it's under contract by Saturday afternoon, right? And so having all of the pieces in place to be able to handle that, and this is absolutely by design. Like, when I got my real estate license, my partner looked at me because I was like, hey, real estate, it's on the weekends. I don't know about this LARPing thing anymore. And it was just like, I love you. And also, the reason that you want to have a career like this is so that you can live the life you want to have. I'm real big into a life by design. And if you give up your life so that you can do this job, what the hell is the point? Just go get another go get another nonprofit job, right? And work 9 to 5. And I was like, okay. But also, I've been really blessed over the years that a lot of my clients have been people I've met through the hobby, be it people who are, like, running the games I play or playing the games with me, because we spend so much time together that they know me, they like me, they trust me. And that does transfer out to the real world from the game world that we all live in, which is cool.
Yeah.
There's a couple of times over the years where it's like, we could go look at that house, but you're going to be at that LARP with me. And they're like, yep, we're not going to be looking at that house.
So here's the $1 million question. Any real estate podcast is going to ask, how do you translate this into leads? How do you translate it into business? Do you have clients that come from those groups?
110%. They're my friends, right? It's my social group. The way I explained it to I do also have a coach when we talk about doing the business with you. I've been in coaching on and off through the years, and I am again now. And very proud. So many people in real estate, they have a sphere-based business, and that sphere comes from something about their life that's really important to them, a community they're a part of. For me, that's LARPers. Other people, it's their church. Other people, it's their pickleball team. For me, that's my LARP peeps. And that's how life works. In addition to that, I have also, like, especially in the early days when I was building my business, I haven't done this in a few years, but I spent a few years doing the local cons and shelling out the money, because especially the big cons, those booths are not cheap. Not at all. And because we have a really big convention here in DC called Awesome Con. That's like an all fandom kind of con. And I spent 2 years doing a table out at Awesome Con. And the first year I called them up and was like, hey, I'd like to do this. The guy was interviewing me and he was like, a real estate agent at a nerd at a fandom con, I don't know. And I was like, oh, no, I am nerd, please. And he started, like, quizzing me on nerd stuff. And by about 2 minutes in, he was like, yeah, okay, no, you're fine. You're fine. Come on, we'll take your money, lady.
Mhm.
But by so doing, I was able to connect with people that didn't play my game, but were in other hobby spaces and fandom spaces that I can really speak to as well, right? Um, Clients who are super into Lego, right? Clients who are super into tabletop gaming and board games, and when they're shopping for their home, they want to prioritize the meeting space, the table space. You know, someone who's invested $10,000 in one of the really high-end custom gaming tables,
Mhm.
having a real estate agent that you not only do you have, can you explain it to me and I know exactly what you're talking about, but also I don't think it's weird. I think it's cool,
That's
right?
why they need that bigger living room or the finished basement or whatever in order to have that gaming space. It's like, no, I need
Hmm.
to have room for 8 people around this table. I need to
Yeah.
have room for these activities. I did one of my favorite local conventions here is called the Midwest Gaming Classic. It's a classic video game convention. Uh,
Nice.
a huge portion of it, like there's basically like there's a big dealer room where you can buy games and such. Then there's like an equally big room that's just arcade machines, pinball, old consoles set up like almost like a museum. So lots of stuff there, but the like, I want to say maybe 21, maybe 22. I can't remember what year it was. I did a booth there because I've been involved in the convention several times, like
Sure.
providing entertainment. Like I DJ like a set on the little main stage, and I've come back and done that since. But I did a
DJ
booth.
Retro.
Yeah, I did a booth and just like tried to do it specifically for real estate. And
Hmm.
it wasn't until like I really like pay attention to it, I go like, oh, I'm next to a personal injury lawyer. There's like
Hmm.
there's a couple of like other businesses that do stuff that are not necessarily like selling old PlayStation games. They're doing home improvement things like things like that. And you realize that like, oh, there's not it, you just go where the people are. Where else are you going to go? You're going to meet like anywhere from like 10 to 100 to maybe 200 300 people in a single day.
Yeah.
um the only reason I haven't done that since is that like I realized that like, oh, not like if I want to do this, I have to figure out how to bark a little better, like get people to come to my table, because I
Yeah.
don't have a table full of PlayStation games for people to thumb through. That's how you get people to spend like 20 minutes at your table, is you have to have like the row of games where they're looking for the rare ones. So
And that's the benefit of you actually being in the
mm,
community and tabling at an event like that is
mm,
like I am one of you, and you know what people walking down that aisle want. You know what they'd be interested in engaging with. Whereas a personal injury lawyer, unless he's also into like old school console gaming,
mm.
he's just showing up to lead generate, and like no one cares.
Well,
When
what
people
they
come to
did
my
is they
yeah.
did a giveaway. They had a PlayStation 5 there, and this was like the
Yep.
PlayStation 5 was new at the time. I guess it'd still be a good price today because they're like $700. But they just did a giveaway. Everybody signed up. They got their emails, and it's like I was getting their emails for like whatever 2 years until I just tried to finally unsubscribe. And so like it's a great way to build the email list. Is just saying, hey, enter my contest. And so I had a little contest as well. But I was trying to do like I was trying to tie it into real estate. I did smart home stuff. It's like, oh, here's a desk doorbell camera and some speakers and whatever. And I still got a bunch of signups for it. And I'm still nurturing some of those leads here, like 3-4
Mhm.
years later. But I realized that like, oh, have a giveaway that people want to get, and
Yeah.
you can get people to sign up. So maybe next time I'll invest in like a Sega collection or something that people will go like, oh shoot, I want
And
this.
the thing is that the choice there also proves your validity within the community,
Hmm.
right? Like part like I don't know, when someone who is not into nerd stuff comes into a like heavy nerd like culture space, it's really obvious really fast, right? That they don't know what everybody's talking about all this stuff that they don't know about. And to a certain extent, like part of the reason that I stopped going to the big con was in part because I got shunted over to the side of the dealer hall with like the Verizon guy and like all of these other companies that like had no ties to the community whatsoever, right? Like wouldn't know an Old Republic lightsaber from, the hole in the ground.
Yeah.
And so being able to, because part of what was working for me the first couple times was just being like, yeah, no, I'm not a poser. Like, right, truly, like, come at me. Like, and this was years ago. So like I was having deep conversations about Game of Thrones at the time. I had one of my past clients did me a solid and showed up at my table at AwesomeCon one year and like talked me into going and getting a photo with the cast of Star Trek Next Generation, because they were all at that con. Everybody was at that con that year. Like there was like 6 or 7 of the main primary cast, and including my faves. And I'm not a big like go meet celebrities, get autographs kind of person. That's not the way I engage in my fandoms usually. Because in part because I'm a theater person, so like I know they're just people, right? Like I love, like I'm sure they're lovely, but I don't need that. But they were like, but you do. And I got talked into it, and I'm just so grateful because I adore that I got that photograph, right, of me with all of those actors in that time, and it was just before the pandemic, right? So like whether or not that would ever be able to happen again. But it's little things like that. Like people actually know if you have something in common with them or not. And I think that whenever companies come into convention spaces or they're like trying to cosplay or whatever, if there's, or even just like, if I showed up at a pickleball tournament, frankly, right? Not to pick on pickleball, but like, I don't know sports. I do not. Like I get some of the more common sports analogies, but I don't have teams. I don't follow any sports. When I talk to a potential new client who is very much into sports, like I've learned some cool things. I actually recently had a client and was super into sports, and I learned stuff and it was cool, but I wasn't going to try and do a bunch of sports analogies at her because they're not going to be genuine. They're not going to be authentic. And when you come into those spaces, you have to show that you like to a certain extent that you belong there, or at least that you respect it.
Yes, it's got to identify with what you love and how you're showing up, and also like because you end up servicing your own friends and your sphere, and those people end up becoming your clients. Well, it doesn't work to start talking in some way that's alien to them.
Yeah.
So I'll use another example from our past. We like a lot of real estate agents did the refrigerator magnet with the Green Bay Packers schedule, because we're in Wisconsin. You have a lot of Green Bay fans here, and there's I'm not picking on one person or the other. And we also did like the Milwaukee Brewers schedule, and realized that like despite the fact that there's Brewers huge here, and even people who are fans of the game, excuse me, they'd be like, well, there's no enthusiasm around it. Lots of people do the Milwaukee Brewers magnet with a schedule on it. So then we switched it up. We started doing a magnet with a schedule of all the summer festivals. So like here's when the music festival is. Here's where the farmers markets are. Here's like doing stuff like that, and we got a huge response for that. Because it was much more in brand with who our team is and who the people we go to are, but also none of the other realtors were doing it. Yeah, we had to do a little bit more legwork because nobody just had like a
you could be like farmers markets, go festivals,
exactly,
go.
Yeah, there's templates for baseball and football schedule. When the teams announce those schedules, boom, you put the dates on the calendar and you're done. Versus farmers market, you got to kind of figure out which one. Yeah. And also we were picky about like which farmers markets we put in there. We wanted to put good ones and also like ones where we actually had clients. I wouldn't want to recommend a farmers market in a town where we never had a closing.
Right. So Zach, how are you getting those magnets in people's hands? Because I have been working on something similar for and I've had mission creep on it too, right? But it's like I said, my sports calendar is not going to be authentic to me. But we have so many regional like Renaissance festivals and cosplay events and like the Fairy Ball and these sorts of things here in the DMV region. I've been putting together a list of all of those so that I can make a magnet or something. But I've gotten real like in my head about it to the point where I was like, maybe it's a magnet with a QR code, but the QR code goes to my website so that I can keep updating it as all of these events kind of come and go. But I'm overcomplicating it. And also, I don't even know how I would be, aside from mailing it to people, I guess, like just walking around with it. Pop buys, like how are you getting the magnets to your clients?
So what we used to do is we order for a company like Magnets USA. I'm sure there's more places at that. So we'd they do have some templates there, so you can just drop stuff in there. But otherwise, if you're creative at all, which I assume you probably are, you'd be able to upload whatever thing you make at home. And for the longest time, we would order whatever it is, 500 of them, and we would have a day where myself, my team, the other agents on our team would sit there and just stuff envelopes for like 2 or 3 hours. Like like one person would stuff in an envelope, next person would put a label with the address on it, next person would stamp it, and then I'll go out at the end. This year's the first year we just paid to just upload the full address list and have it sent out
from the distributor to the
and then we got shipped like 100 extra because I'll give those out to people I meet, new clients and stuff like that. As soon as I meet somebody, that schedule's still good probably through the end of summer, and so it's a little bit more seasonal. So we will have a different magnet that goes out like 2 or 3 times a year. So you're
doing summer festivals and fall festivals.
Exactly. So the QR code is a good idea because but I would just have the QR code just go straight to your website or your home value thing or whatever lead generating thing you want to have on there. But yeah, it entices them to continue to get those magnets and get those and stay on your mailing list, and plus you have a new reason to call them up and say like, hey, I've got the updated schedule. Here you go. I can send it to you, or you drop it off at their house the next time you see them, whatever it is.
Okay, think about that. Yeah, that is one of the things as a solo agent, like the more legwork involved, especially when I'm busy, right? Like I have a good business, and so I also have all the plate spinning of the work I'm doing in the moment. Figuring out what makes sense for that kind of stuff has been one of my challenges.
I would heartily recommend have the company mailing it out, because even though it costs a little bit more, it means you don't have to do it.
Yeah, no, I do that. I do a printed like full color calendar every year of like beautiful gardens, and because just like who doesn't like that, and it's gone over real well. I started doing it real early on and have kept. It's one of the few things that I've kept up over the years. Because it's relatively easy to execute, and also people like it.
Yeah, and now we're at a point where like somebody who's receiving that, probably almost 10 years or longer, depending on when they were first your client, they're probably expecting it. That whatever month that calendar comes in, like if it's December and your calendar starts in January, they're like, hey, where's my calendar? It's late this year or something like that. They start to expect things. I do for the longest time we did a pizza pickup where we did pizza and beer at for the first like Thursday night game of the home football schedule. But again, like only so many people signed up for that. But then this year we're shifting it to it's second week of June, which is typically like the last day of school. So we're calling it like the get out of school deal, because we have a lot of families that are on our list, and also not everybody needs to necessarily have a kid in school to want to pick up a pizza. So like it's just a free pizza. So plenty of people still show up for that, even without the having the last day of school to celebrate.
Nice, that makes sense.
But yeah, just think about who are your people, what's authentic to you, and so it sounds like you do a really good job of engaging with that with those people. You probably don't have as much fear calling them or texting them to ask questions, because like they've already seen, especially those people who come from your LARPing sphere. Let's be honest, they've already seen the most embarrassing thing you're going to do.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. They've seen me be ridiculous and
There's
like
already
hot and
there's no
sweaty in the
shame at
woods.
this point.
Yeah. Yeah.
So why be afraid of calling them?
Well, and that's the thing. Like, I mean, I'm afraid of calling them because I don't want them to think that all I want is to do
Mm,
business with them,
yeah.
right? Like even though I adore them and they adore me, if I still get in my head about like, well, do they think that the only reason I'm calling is because of business? And like, obviously not. If they know me at all, they know that's not true. But I do still have those intrusive thoughts about that. And texting is a lot easier for me. Also, like I'm an elder millennial, so a lot of my like peers, if I call them, I have to be like, hey, everything's okay.
Mm,
Right? Like you have to start like because nobody in my like social circle makes phone calls. There's like two people who are like, I'm the phone person, and otherwise it's just not how life is lived, right? We're on Discord chats, we're in group texts, we're texting on Facebook or Instagram and sending each other
yeah.
reels, like that sort of communication, as opposed to picking up the phone. But it's also a hobby where I see these people that are in my like core group at least 4 times a year, live and in person. Like I'm looking in their eyeballs. They know I'm a real person because they get to see me in real life, as opposed to, just engaging on social media or just getting a phone call
Yeah.
sometimes.
You don't have to remind them who you are. You don't have to remind them that you exist or things like that if you're just in their lives for the things.
Yep.
And for that matter, like, I think some people watching are probably go like, oh, well, there's only so many people we can interact with. It's like you actually don't need that many people to be on your close friends list, your actual like referral partner type people. You have a handful of like highly engaged, loyal people. They're gonna recommend you to all of their friends and family anyway. So I've got a handful of clients who like I can probably trace like 7 or 8 transactions or pieces of business
Yeah.
to over the years, and for each one of them. And so like that ends up make up like 80% of my business. And so like the other 20% is like all the stuff I'm chasing. That's the where I'm dancing on TikTok, and I'm posting about this, I'm hosting open houses, I'm calling or door knocking or whatever. It's like all that other stuff that people see me doing, that's just to get like the other 20% to fill it out, and grow and meet new people, rather than just like rely on but the 80% is still that those people that I already know, like, and trust me.
Yeah. And or that if they haven't sent me a referral, I'm getting the apology, right? I've been a number of times a year, I'm saying something about real estate just in conversation, and one of my friends is like, I've not sent you anybody this year. I'm so sorry. I just haven't known anybody that needed help, right?
Yeah,
And it's like,
that's loyalty. You
yeah,
can't buy
like,
that.
it's you can't let. And also, like, I am so ride or die with my clients. Like it's kind of ridiculous, like the extent to which I am ready to like go down whatever weird rabbit hole we need to go down. Because this is the other thing I love about working with nerds, is that I take an educated approach to real estate. Like I explain everything. I've had multiple clients that probably could have sat for the real estate exam once they got done working with me. And for some people, that level of information is the thing that they need in order to feel comfortable making such a big choice like this. And being able to have the patience and the subject matter knowledge and enthusiasm to be able to actually explain things at that level for as long as it takes too. Like my typical like buyer process is 2 hours on average of conversation before we ever set foot in a house. Sellers all over the place, because people start talking to me a year before they get ready to sell, because they're the people in my community are planners by and large. There's a high level of anxiety and a high level of like, I want to understand everything before I get started, right? Like these games I play, most of them have a rule book that is a couple hundred pages long. And in order to engage with the game, you have just like the monster manual, the player's handbook for D&D, right? A lot of the LARPs have that as well. And so the ability and the interest in having a hobby where you do your homework, right, translates into.
I've got condo docs and a home inspection for you to read.
I mean, I've had clients that were, my allied partners, right? So like the lenders I like to refer, and the title company I like to refer, like the amount of times over the years that I've gotten like comments along the lines of, Nicole, your clients are always nice. They're always on top of everything. And they're always, if they're asking questions, they're asking really good questions, right? They're not asking like the 101 questions. They're asking the like 201, 301 level questions. And it's because I love to answer all those questions, right? And I think part of helping people understand what's happening in real estate is being able to explain to them of like, look, we can only focus on what we can control, but the thing that I think might happen next with a like 30% likelihood is this thing, right? We'll be on this branch of the multi-universe if this is how that happens. And whenever people get real nervous about like the worst case scenario, I'm sure you've seen this of like, well, but if we do that, then this horrible thing could happen. And I have a fiduciary responsibility to explain to you that like, yes, it could. That is technically the worst case scenario, is this horrible thing. But let's take a minute and walk back the percentage likelihood that that thing will happen. Because for that thing to happen, here are the 10 things that have to happen first. And let's talk about how likely each of those are, right? So I can help them paint the picture of like how the multiverse branches out to get to that place, and why that's probably not something we should worry about because of how much control we have over all of these things between here and there. And I do also think that gamers in particular understand percentages more than your average person, because they're engaging in hobbies that are predicated on the resolution mechanics are predicated on percentages, right? If you're rolling a dice that's got 20 sides on it, there's a 1 in 20 chance you roll a 1 or you roll a 20, right? Same thing for video games. This weapon gives me a +5 to my critical hit chance. Okay, like, and these are people who like dive into the math a lot of times on how things work. And so when they're presented with this really complicated real world problem, there is a framework already established from that shared hobby to explain like the thing we're doing in real life as well.
And for me personally, I am way more of a run and gun type person. So my analogies are way more like, hey, if this doesn't work, that's okay. We respawn and we try again. We'll try the jump again. It's like we're writing an offer. It's like, hey, there's 20 other offers. Like, that's okay. It's like, we're gonna go all in. If we get it, great. If we don't, there's gonna be another house next weekend. if we can try again. We're not out. We haven't run out of time yet. We're not out of lives. We've got plenty to go. And I just to kind of set the expectation that's like, hey, this might be frustrating depending on what we're looking for or what our timeline is. The important thing is you don't get frustrated. Like,
oh, they're gonna get frustrated though. Let's be real.
We just, but
we've been living in is a frustrating market.
but there again, it's like my role is to be that guide in the calm voice. And so like if they start to, I had one earlier this week. I don't want to get into details because obviously they're still in the middle of transaction. But like they were like, I don't know if we're gonna be able to do this. I said, hey, call this person, see if they can help. And and a day later, it's like, hey, we talked to them. It looks like everything's gonna be fine. I'm like, oh, perfect. It's like, I didn't know for sure, but I said, hey, before we get all doom and gloom, let's talk to this person to see if they can handle what we're looking at.
Yep.
I've done this before.
I had a co-broke a few months ago. Like something was a little weird. We were trying to fix it. Like there were some documents from the community that the lender hadn't gotten, and we were trying to get that sorted out. And the co-broker is just like, oh no, this deal is going to fall apart. And I was like, hey. Like, first of all, that's not our job. Our job is to help the deal stay together because everybody wants it to. And I was like, what I know today is that your client wants to do this and my client wants to do this. And the rest is just details. And that's what we're here for, is to figure out all of these details. And we've hit a roadblock, and we just have to keep going, right? We have to respawn and find the wizard that can give us the bonus so that this ritual magic can work and manifest in a closing for everybody, right? Like we get there, we figure it out.
Yeah, honestly, the person who wins is the person who just keeps trying.
Yeah.
The person who doesn't give up. And I see it in transactions. I see it in lead gen and everything else. It's like you got like the person who just keeps going. Like they may have a really low performance average, like, oh, the number of their conversion rate, is only 1 in 100. It's like, but the thing is, they're taking 500 tries.
Yep.
So they're getting 5 clients versus the person who is 1 in 10 but isn't calling enough.
No, life is about action.
Yeah. All right, Nicole, this has been amazing, and I don't want to keep you from the rest of your life, because I'm sure you've got a foam sword to sharpen. Where should people look for you in Virginia? Or
So I practice in the entire northern. So if anybody's familiar with the DMV, Maryland is a whole separate licensure. District of Columbia is a whole separate licensure. I live in Northern Virginia. Fairfax is just off the Beltway. My market center is really well situated. I service clients in Loudoun County, Prince William County, as well as Fairfax, Arlington, and Alexandria. And I work a lot with like folks who are nerdy. It is not a requisite in order to work with me. But if typically my clients are the sort of people who choose to work with me are the kind of people who want to be educated. They want to understand what's going on, and have someone who's going to take the time to listen and just kind of walk through this in a way that gets all their questions answered. And the best way to find me, I am all over social media all the time. Duffey Homes Nova is my handle on most platforms. They can give me a call. My number is 703-303-2889. And I also have a link tree with a ton of ways to contact me as well. So I'm
we'll
here.
Put the link tree in the description for the podcast, the YouTube video itself, so that people make it easy. But anybody who's just listening, they can pause the podcast and then dial your number while they're driving.
Perfect. Yeah. No, don't call me when you're driving. Be safe, everybody.
Yeah, for real. All right, so Nicole, thank you again for joining us, and I really do look forward to talking with you more. And hey, I guess I was asking before we stop here. You're going to be at the next big KW event in San Antonio.
Yep. I'm going to Mega Camp.
Look forward to meeting you at Mega Camp, and of course anybody who else is going to Mega Camp. I look forward to meeting.
We're gonna play some board games at Mega Camp. I know there was talk during family reunion, but I don't know if it ever happened.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll figure out something. I'm gonna find some kind of space. I wanted to find like a barcade, and we can take it over and whatever else. I thought, I'm thinking too big here. I'll book that and 3 people will show up. Let's find just a room or a corner.
or just like in the lobby of one of the con hotels. Bring a game that's easy to throw in a suitcase. Like just hang out and make it happen.
That convention center's got like a lot of like dead space, so I'm sure we can just go around the corner, and we'll do that there. All right, awesome. Look forward to seeing you there, and anybody else who joins us. So thank you for listening to the Level Up Agent Network podcast. My name has been Zach Shipley, and it still will be after this. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks.